To A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV. You're here with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast in Australia. I hope you've had an interesting and enlightening week wherever you are in this world of ours. I mean, it's certainly the silly season, I think, around the world as all the politicians start to sort of line up for respective elections and everything that are coming on. I know in the US of A, you're right in the thick of it now with, elections are probably dominating all your newscasts. Here in Australia, we've got a various amount of local elections happening, and I'm sure there's other ones happening around the world too. And if you're like me, you sort of get a little bit numb to it all after a while. You sort of feel like they're campaigning all the time, never mind just at election time. And I think that's the general thing. I mean, I think 2020 has been a year where a lot of us have sort of started to tune out a little bit because we just sort of feel there's been so much negativity and so many people chattering at you at what you should and shouldn't be doing that you just want to sort of get off the merry-go-round for a little while and just take a deep breath and exhale and say, wow, life can be this simple and life can be sort of easier than what it has been. So that leads me to the Simply Tarot card of the week this week, which is the Hanged Man. Now, it's really interesting because for those of you that follow me on my Facebook page, you'll know that I draw a card of the day every day. And it was interesting because the Hanged Man was the one I drew yesterday for the card of the day, and it happened to come out again today for the card of the week. So I think that's really sort of sending us an extremely powerful message that the Hanged Man is getting stronger in oneself after a lot of deliberating and delaying in your life. Now, isn't that an interesting card to come out, considering the year that we've all had, where we sort of feel like we have been hanging upside down and sort of we're at everybody else's mercy. But it's given us a chance, I think, to really sort of delve inside ourselves and ask ourselves, what is important to us? Where are we going? What do we want to achieve? And how has life changed in the last 6 to 12 months? And it's an interesting sort of card because I don't think many of us really thought at the beginning of 2020 that we were going to have a year that we were ahead of us that we've had. We all had this great idea of everything being sort of, positive and moving forward, and we'd be able to achieve so many things in our lives. And it's been a very different equation. So I suppose that's what life is about, isn't it? It's about adjusting, learning to adjust and move with the times of things that are happening and changing in our lives. So I want to focus on the candle of the week. And it's interesting because before the show, I always draw the candle first before I draw the card. And I chose the love candle because I just sort of felt that we could all do with a little bit more love in our lives, whether it's self-love or whether it's loving somebody or just loving being alive, I think is probably a good equation at the moment. And for those of you that aren't well around the world, love can also sort of try and brighten your day a little bit and maybe make you feel a little bit better. And I think we all need love. We all need some form of love in our lives. And there's been many, many songs written about love over the years, and too many to mention, of course. And, love takes on many different energies from time to time. Sometimes love makes us feel like we can sing and fly through the day, and other times love makes us feel as if we're sad and disappointed, not knowing where we're going. But whatever it is, I mean, I know they say money makes the world go round, but in my opinion, it's more to do with love. And the love that we give and the love that we receive that I think makes the world go round. So it's an interesting candle to have this week. Even if you don't have one of my love candles, why not get a candle out of the cupboard and sort of just hold it for a couple of seconds and try and infuse it with love, and then light it and sort of be thankful that you are surrounded by love. Let's put some love out into the universe this week. I think it's really, really important because we've got so much stuff going on around the world that I think we could all do with taking a deep breath, exhaling and sort of allowing some loving energy into our lives. Now, I want to move on to the astrology part of the show, and my inbox is constantly full with people asking me questions at how do I work this out? Where do I get my information from? For those of you that aren't familiar with me, I've been in this industry for well over 40 years now, and I've been working with astrology most of my career. And it is a science. It's something that took a lot of hard study and a lot of research and a lot of learning and a lot of chart work and talking to a lot of people and getting feedback and whatever, until I suppose it almost became second nature to me. And what I do prior to the show is I look at where the transiting planets are. So I pull up a chart for here and now, as it's known, and I look at what transiting or moving planets, where they're sitting, what energy, what patterns, what transits they're making. And that's where I get my information from. So yes, sometimes you might think, gee, she's repeating herself again. She talks about those 3 planets every week that are in Capricorn. Well, that's because they're slow moving. But I also like to try and focus on whatever else jumps out at me off the computer screen as I first open up the program for that particular day, just prior to the show. And I go with what jumps out at me first, because I feel that that's sort of like the universe's way of saying to me, this is where we need to focus. This is the point of the starting point for the astrology section. And this week it was interesting because Mercury, the planet of communication, illuminated off the screen to me. And it was like, okay, Mercury, the planet of communications in Libra. I know what that means and I understand what it means. And I had a little bit of a smile on my face because I thought the politician's greatest asset, Mercury sitting in Libra. They can get out there and they can spin all the BS that they like. And they think that they're delivering it in such a balanced way that everybody's lapping it up and clapping and cheering for them and thinking that they're absolutely doing an amazing job. And I mean all politicians around the world would be feeling a little bit smug at the moment. And then when I looked a little bit closer, it was sitting in opposition. Now, an opposition is something that's uncomfortable. It's like sandpaper. And it was sitting opposite Chiron, the planet, the wounded healer, in Aries. Now, to me, that was sort of like, here's the nation, here's your country, here's the globe. It's in a terrible state at the moment, gripped by a pandemic. And, you know, we're all trying to fight our way through that and try and work out what's the new normal and how do we go about it and what are the restrictions today and are they different from yesterday and what can we can't do and can we send the kids to school? Can we go to work? Can we go to the gym? Can we go and get our nails done or our hair done? And there's so many different changes and there's no right or wrong answer. I think it's just a sort of a section by section or a county by county or a suburb by suburb, that restrictions change accordingly due to how the pandemic is behaving itself or not behaving itself in your local area. And that was sort of what I looked at it, and I sort of looked at it as being sort of like on opposite sides of the boxing ring. Here's Mercury on one side and here's Chiron, the planet, the wounded healer, on the other. And in the middle, here's these politicians trying to sort of send across to Chiron, we're doing a really fantastic job. Just sit there and listen. We'll tell you, you know, you just sit there and listen. Don't you sort of jump up and down or sort of ask a question or sort of poke fun at us or ask us something that we're not prepared to answer. We'll just tell you how it is. And I thought, isn't that sort of an interesting way of looking at it? Because there's many people out there spinning their version of the truth at the moment of what they think is going to happen. And, you know, the world's abuzz with, you know, talk of vaccines and all this sort of thing. Look, I'm not saying there won't be a vaccine. Like everybody else around the world, you know, we've got our fingers crossed that that will happen. But even, you know, even though they're going at great guns with the speed that they're going with vaccines around the world, it's still not going to be the magic cure that fixes this pandemic overnight. We're not going to be able to snap our fingers and say, you beauty, we've got a vaccine, we can all go back to life as normal tomorrow. It's going to take time. It's going to take time to make sure, first of all, it's safe for people to have it. And then the world's got to go into massive production of producing this, distributing it, inoculating people, and then I suppose making sure that it really does, you know, do the job that it's supposed to do. So it's not just going to be, I think, one magical answer is going to fix this pandemic like the world leaders would have us believe. So just be a little bit aware in the next 7 to 10 days of the BS that comes out of your politician's mouth, and maybe take it with a grain of salt. Are they just there doing a marketing exercise, or is there a slither of truth in what they're saying? And that's what I feel that Mercury in Libra is asking us to do. Each and every one of us is to take our blindfolds off, put our listening ears on and say, now, what part of this is actually the truth? What part can I believe? And what is, you know, marketing or hype or BS that we can sort of discard? And then I think somewhere through all that, we might start to find some slivers of hope that the world is heading in the right way, even though numbers are increasing and decreasing in other parts of the world. And it's like they get it under control in one part of the world and bingo, out comes another outbreak, and not really understanding or knowing where it comes from. Yes, we can blame young people going out and being young and having a good time and not social distancing. And I'm not saying that they're not doing that. I'm just saying it's really difficult when you keep putting these restrictions on people to expect them to keep behaving in a manner that you want them to. On one hand, you're telling them one thing, and the next breath you're telling them something completely different. I think what we really need is a unified message that this is exactly what we all need to do. All the countries around the world adopt it, and then maybe, just maybe, we'd be able to rub this pandemic out without a vaccine if everybody got on the same page and sort of, we all joined hands together. That's my hope anyway, that we could all find some sort of solution like that. Wouldn't it be lovely? At the same time, we've got the sun's actually still sitting in Virgo, which is a nice time of the year because it's a time of the year where we can breathe a little bit more, where we can sort of really start to focus on our physical health. Virgo is the very analytical sign. It's a sign of looking at our diet and exercise and our physical health. So it's the perfect time for people to be sort of really questioning their health, what our authorities are doing as far as this pandemic, what are they doing in our local area, are they handling it right? And maybe some of the ownership comes back to us. What do we need to do responsibly as an individual to protect ourselves? We can't always expect someone else to do the protecting for us. I know for me personally, I've made modifications to my life, and I really think twice now before I step out the door when I go somewhere. Do I really need to do it? What is the risk factor? And is it essential? And maybe they're the sort of questions we all need to live by. It's not saying that we hide ourselves away in a cupboard or a closet, but it's asking the question that, is this an essential journey? How many people are going to be there, and how can I best protect myself during this, outing that I'm going to take, or a trip to the shops, or whatever it might be. So that's what the sun in Virgo is asking each and every one of us to do, is to look at and take some responsibility for ourselves. You may also find that your mind is very one way or the other. There may not be a lot of shades of grey at the moment. It might be very sort of definite for something or definite against something. That's okay. We need to have some strength and direction sometimes. Now, in the next couple of days, we're going to find the planet of Mars is going to go direct in Aries. Now, why is this so important? Mars is the planet of action. It's also the planet of war. And heaven forbid that we ever go into another war. I hope we never see one in our lifetimes and beyond. But I feel it's very interesting at the moment with the way that the world is viewing China. And everybody's got a different opinion, with journalists being thrown out of the country, trade bans, things like that. People are sort of starting to talk about that. I hope they're wrong. But I think, again, it comes back to our politicians and the BS that they're going to be spinning out from one side of the room to the other. Remember the boxing ring, that we need to keep our eye on that too. It's not my role to sort of say to you who's right or who's wrong in this situation. All I'm going to say to you is be very aware of that. As a planet turns direct again after being retrograde or going backwards, it's sort of almost like the danger time. It's when the energy really sort of ramps up. So we need to hope that people are going to keep their communication on a very somber sort of level and not get aggressive, not get cranky, not sort of poke the tiger with a stick. Let's just be sort of very subtle, very gentle, and sort of be firm at the same time without sort of deliberately aggravating someone. Now, that also goes for all of us too. In our personal lives, don't start an argument with somebody just because things are welling up inside you. Maybe take a breather, and if you don't need to talk about it, leave it for a week or so. It's not the perfect time to bring up what's been going through your mind, and you've got this long list of how you think someone else can change, because it may not be the appropriate time. They may not be in a good headspace or ready to accept that. So we're going to take our first call, and it's Ashlyn in Erin, Tennessee. Are you there, Ashlyn? What a very pretty name.
I'm here, and thank you.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, sweetie?
See what now?
Do you have a question I can answer for you?
Okay, so I'm actually wondering if you can sense my grandfather.
Okay, look, it's really difficult for me to tune into somebody with a couple of minutes that we've got on the show. What I suggest is if you've got a question, I'm happy to answer that for you. And if your grandfather wants to chime in, he will. How's that?
Okay.
So do you have a question about something that you need answering in your life at the moment?
Not that I can really think of. I'm not really sure how all this works.
Well, do you have a question? Is it, you're looking for a new job? Do you want to move? Is there something like that that's going on in your life at the moment?
Yeah, okay. So my car is in the auto shop. It has been there for a very long time now. I'm wondering if it will be fixed anytime soon.
Okay. All right. The first thing I was picking up around you is there's a lot of changes coming into your life. I think this year has been a year where you've really had to take a long, hard look at what's important to you and where you want to go from here. And that's a good thing. But I feel at times, though, that you felt like you've run out of steam, you've run out of energy, that everything's sort of getting too hard. Look, I do feel from the end of this month, moving forward towards the end of the year, I feel that a lot of the things that you've been working on or things that have become very important to you will start to sort of unfold. And that's a good thing. I don't feel uncomfortable with what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is your wishes and your desires are going to start to come to fruition now. Has there been a thought going through your mind about moving residence or making some changes to where you're living? Because I keep seeing and feeling movement around where you're living.
I will be going to college in a year.
Right.
And
yeah.
then,
Well, that's a
I
good. Yeah, going to college is a major thing in your life, yes. Has there also been sort of like, I'll put this, it's like you've grown up a lot more than some of your friends around you. It's sort of like you almost sort of feel like you don't fit anymore, you don't belong anymore.
Yes.
I want to say to you, don't dwell on that. It's a good thing in as much as that it just shows me that you're maturing and you're listening to the guidance of your grandfather, even though you don't know, we all tend to sort of think we're going to have this great epiphany moment where they're going to come down and stand in front of us and we can say, oh, that's definitely granddad or whoever. It's not always that way. They can usually subtly work with us from beyond, where they put ideas, they put thoughts into our mind that we think are our own, but it's them giving us their guidance. It's them working with us to help us to become the strongest, the best people that we can become. I know your grandfather is with you all the time, but I'm also going to say to you, some of this wisdom that you're starting to amass is coming directly from him, even though you may not have acknowledged it in that way. That's where I'm seeing the wisdom coming from. And he's also sort of showing me that you're very, very strong and you need to follow your own judgment. You don't need to follow the rest of the crowd like sheep. You need to be able to be your own person and say, this is what I want and this is where I'm going and this is what's right for me. And by doing that, Ashlyn, you will achieve so much more than you would have. And it's okay to sort of, even when you go away to college, if you don't want to get involved in the social scene as much as everybody else and you want to focus on your studies or you want to do something different, that's okay too. You're allowed to be you. And I think that's the important thing that your grandfather wanted to share with you. He hasn't forgotten you. He's always with you and he's always around you. And I see him he keeps showing me a vision of you being a little girl about 4 where he used to take you for a walk and he'd hold your hand. And that's what he wants you to remember, that at any time things seem overwhelming, take your mind back to being a little girl and you were holding on to his hand and you felt safe because he's always there. He's always looking after you. So I hope that's helped you, Ashlyn, and good luck with you going off to college, sweetheart. So we're going to talk with Tanya. You're very welcome, sweetheart. We're going to talk with Tana Marie in Indianapolis, in Indiana, in the USA. Are you there, Tana Marie?
Sonia.
Do you have a question I can work with, sweetie?
Yeah. Do you do anything legal?
Technically, unfortunately, we're not allowed to do things legal by law, but I can sort of I can go around the situation, if we can put it that way for you.
Okay, so I'm dealing with an ex-boyfriend, and we had an issue, and I'm facing two misdemeanor charges, and I just want to know what the outcome is going to be like. I mean, am I going to be able to get on? I mean, this is my first offense. I've never had any charges a day in my life. My kids need me right now. I'm actually with them right now because they're sick, you know, so I need to be with my kids. So I'm trying to beat this. I just want to know the outcome, and I want to know if I can walk away freely from this guy, because I've completely left him, been away from him for like 4 months, but still I'm, you know, I still got that energy link. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, and it's because he hasn't acknowledged the fact or accepted the fact that you two are no longer an item, and that makes it really difficult.
But he's only doing this because he's retaliating because he wants me back, but I don't want him back. So he's doing this to me.
Yeah, I understand that, sweetie, but I mean, until such times as he's prepared to let go energetically, you're still going to feel that energy transfer or that energy pull coming from him. As far as your legal situation...
Is he my karmic partner?
No, the one that you've got the legal battle with, sweetheart.
I know, but I feel like he's more like, he's either my twin flame or my karmic partner. He's teaching me lessons or something. Because I'm always having to deal. I feel like I've dealt with him in a past life.
Yeah, he's certainly teaching you lessons, but I mean, there's all different types of relationships, and we don't have enough time to discuss them all at the moment on the show, but I mean, in my professional opinion, this would be what I would call a karmic relationship, and not all karmic relationships are toxic. Every relationship we go into, good, bad, or indifferent, is there for us to learn some sort of lessons and to understand more about ourselves. But where things become toxic or become karmic is when we keep going back lifetime after lifetime to repeat the same lessons because we don't complete them or achieve them or finish them off in one lifetime. What I am picking up with you and this man that you've got the legal issue with, that this is the third time, 3 lifetimes that you two have been together. Now, the role this time for you is to be able to learn to stand your ground without letting go of who you are and letting go of your principles. And I know that's easier said than done, because this man tends to bring out the worst aspects of you, you know, like normally where you could be patient or you could bite your tongue or you could move away from something, it's like you keep going back there for more. And it's only been in the recent few months that you've realised now what are the triggers that he's able to do to make you keep coming back. Even though your head says don't be so stupid, your heart says something different. So to come back to your original question of the legal thing, I still think that there's some work that needs to be done on that by your legal team before we actually go into a court of law. I don't believe that you're going to be removed from your children, but I don't believe you're going to completely beat this either. There is going to be some consequences for the reasons why this has been brought about, but I don't believe the children will be removed from you or you removed from them. But I do think that there will be a price to pay in some way, whether it's a fine or whether it's some community service or whether it's going to be, you know, them sending you off to get some sort of professional help. But that's what I'm seeing coming down.
But what do you see? Do you see what kind of consequence do you see would be my first offense? Because I know I need to go in, and I know I got to go in.
I can't tell you what the judge is going to bring down on the day, but what I can tell you is that I don't believe that this is going to result in your children being removed from you. I do feel that there's going to be, it's going to have a number of layers to what the judge decides is appropriate in this situation, and it may be very different from what you've been advised could happen. I think there's going to be 3 layers to it of what the judge is going to bring down as what he sees as the appropriate action dealing with this moving forward. I think you've got a lot of things to work through, and I know that it's going to be an emotionally taxing time, but I think you've just got to take 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, and just approach it in that way. Instead of trying to sort of look at what if this and what if that, let's just deal with the immediate. Let's deal with your children and, you know, make sure that they're on an even keel and that you're listening to what your legal person is saying and approach it in that way. Unfortunately, sweetie, that's where we've got to leave it because we've come to the end of the show, but I wish you every success with your legal problem moving forward. It's always very difficult when we have issues in our lives that we need to sort out. And there's many, many trials and tribulations that we go through in life, and it's sort of a matter of which road do we take, what's right, what's wrong. I can't give you those answers. All as I can say to you is follow what feels right for you. We all have a very definite feeling of things about, we know when we're getting into hot water, we know when we're going the wrong road and that we need to make some changes in our lives. And if we all listen to that gut feeling, we'd all make better choices, more informed choices. Sometimes it's not about what's right or wrong. Sometimes it's about following or listening to that gut feeling and saying, okay, this is very strong for a reason. Why is it strong? Why do I feel this way? Maybe I need to explore that a little bit more. So I hope in the next 7 days you start to give yourself a little bit more love in your life and maybe put some nice loving music on the turntable or, you know, whatever way that you get your music fix every day. But the most important thing is to love yourself, be kind to yourself, and make sure that we all sort of sift through the BS that are coming from the politicians and the people that run the countries that we live in and be kind to each other. It's been a very hard year for most people, and I think the most important thing we can do now is love each other and send loving energy out to the universe. And then that way, I think we'll all pick up on that loving energy and we'll all feel that we've got a brighter place to live in and enjoy the season. Here in Australia, we're going into springtime, so the warmth is starting to come in and I come alive then. But for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, as you're going into your fall and autumn part of the year, enjoy it, embrace the change of the season and get ready for the, you know, the long winter ahead and sort of look forward to sort of, you know, spending some time at home and listening to your favourite music and movies and things like that. It's a very uplifting thing to do. So until next week, bye for now.